Today on Investigate TV, people essentially kicked off meds their doctors prescribed, leaving patients caught in red tape. It's a financial decision instead of a medical decision.
It's 100% a financial decision.
Plus, lives cut short, do not resuscitate orders signed and issued, and families calling it fraud.
How did you find out that she passed away?
I walked in and found her dead.
Investigate TV starts right now. Hello and welcome to Investigate TV. I'm Lee Zurik. Despite being the ones to actually write prescriptions, many doctors say they lack true control over what medications their patients are able to take, thanks to so-called insurance middlemen. We dug into benefit plans and asked industry experts about the complicated system of getting medication covered. Doctors' offices across the country strangled by red tape.
There's so many things wrong with this system.
It seems simple. Go to the doctor. An expert identifies a medical problem and hopefully finds a solution. But that's when the system can take over. A network of people and policies outside the office that influence and even overrule that doctor's professional opinion. A convoluted system of red tape.
My very first question is, what is your insurance company? Can you imagine that?
Mike Phillips got caught up in the red tape. He remembers days in his early 40s when he felt twice his age.
Any type of normal activity got to be a strain. Something as simple as washing a car, you could do it, but later that night you just feel like you'd been beaten with a baseball bat. The back hurts, the arms hurts, the knees hurt, you can't stand up, it's hard to sleep, all of those things.
Doctors diagnosed him with psoriatic arthritis, an inflammatory autoimmune disease that has no cure, but can be managed with medication.
What you also learn is, unlike a broken bone, there's no test where you can go take and the doctor say, oh, you have this type of psoriatic arthritis and this medicine works. It's really a hit or miss, try different things and see what works type situation.
His doctor found the right medication that got control of his symptoms until his family had to change insurance companies, and he learned the drug that worked would no longer be covered unless he and his doctor proved his symptoms were not controlled by two of the new plan's preferred drugs.
They never gave me any medical justification for the switch whatsoever. It's just simply they have a list and they say you have to take two of these medicines before we'll approve another medicine. And there's no medical discussion, there's no back and forth with your doctor.
Phillips had to change drugs because insurance plans have what they call formulary lists that detail which medications the plans will cover. Those lists put together by pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs, middlemen who handle prescription drug benefits for most commercial health insurance plans. The big three PBMs, CVS Caremark, Express Scripts, and Optum Rx hold more than 75% of the market. PBMs control which prescriptions insurance will cover, meaning sometimes what patients are able to take is in direct opposition to what a doctor thinks is best.
Well, and it's frustrating too because as you learn, if you go to these different insurance companies, they all have what they call their preferred list, and they don't match up. So they're not medically created. It's not as if science and testing has proven these are the four best medicines. It's who they feel they're getting preferable or preferential treatment from. Those are the ones that are on their list.
It's a financial decision instead of a medical decision.
It's 100% a financial decision.
The PBMs, these middlemen, were designed to create buying power for insurers. Their argument, they save money by securing the lowest net cost for medications and encouraging use of those discounted drugs or cheaper generics before anything else.
And then in those instances where there's robust competition in a particular therapeutic area, right? So there's several different drug manufacturers making a treatment for a particular condition, and they all work equally well, then the PBM can use some of those process steps to try and encourage the physician and the patient to look to the most affordable, most effective option first.
InvestigateTV analyzed standard drug plans published online by the 3 largest PBMs, looking at 12 types of commonly prescribed drugs. Our analysis shows why it might be difficult for a patient to take the exact prescription drug their doctor thinks will work best. For example, the brand name drug Synthroid, which treats an underactive thyroid, is a preferred choice on one list, but would most likely not be covered at all by the other 2. The document showed restrictions even within generic drugs, excluding certain doses and manufacturers from their preferred lists.
They are all, in those instances where there's a lot of equally effective options, trying to encourage the use of the lowest net cost option. And so for a particular plan, it may be a generic for a particular condition. It may be a brand that's brought that discount down below the cost of the generic. That is a big part of the recommendation process.
While you may think the pharmaceutical industry likes these deals and negotiations, it too says PBMs have too much power over pricing and patients.
At times, are the PBMs getting in the way of doctors and patients and deciding for them which should be used?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no question. There's a reason that state AGs, state legislatures, the Federal Trade Commission, that bipartisan members of Congress are investigating PBMs right now, because there's widespread concern about the impact that PBM practices are having on patients and their ability to access the medicines that their doctors say that they need.
Do they have too much control?
They do. I mean, we see that in terms of what medicines do patients get, how much do they have to pay, and what hoops do they have to jump through to be able to access those medicines.
There's a lot more to medicine than checking boxes and making money.
Rheumatologist Dr. Madeline Feldman has been an outspoken critic of PBMs.
You can prescribe a drug, and if it's not covered in this formulary, your patient can't take the drug likely.
Exactly right. And people have said, yes, they're practicing medicine without a license. Well, their answer to that is, doctor, you can prescribe whatever you want. We're not telling you what to prescribe. We're just telling you what we'll pay for.
When we asked the PBM trade group, we got pretty much that exact response.
If doctors are saying, this is what I want you to take, and the patient is not allowed to take that because of a PBM, is that right?
I would challenge the premise of your question, because the patient is always able to take the medication that the doctor wants them to take. We're talking about what's covered by the insurance plan and how quickly the insurance plan may be able to respond to a doctor's request for an exception or for a course of action that may be different than the recommendation.
But financial decisions have physical consequences. Research shows that for patients like Dr. Feldman's, having to jump through hoops set by PBMs can cause measurable negative outcomes.
I've had patients that have lost control of their disease. I've had patients that have had to go on higher doses of steroids, and their blood sugar goes up, their blood pressure goes up.
PBMs claim these situations are outliers.
So you think these are exceptions that we're talking about?
I do.
And not happening a lot across the country?
I think that for the most part, millions and millions of patients the system works smoothly for.
But hundreds of comments to federal regulators we read through paint a different picture. One where doctors across the country allege the red tape put in place by PBMs is hurting their patients.
It's not against the law. As I like to call it, it's perfectly legal and perfectly wrong.
And patients like Mike Phillips are left tangled up in the debate over who really has permission to prescribe.
Use some common sense. It's okay to save some money. It's okay to review these things, but when a medical doctor who's been treating a patient on something like this for years tells you he needs to stay on the medicine that he's staying on, listen to the doctor. At least ask for something more if you're going to switch, more than just financial reasons.
There are ongoing efforts by lawmakers at both the state and federal level to rein in the power of PBMs and cut through some of the red tape, including rules that would prevent companies from forcing patients to switch medications out of the blue. The PBM trade group argues these rules will increase healthcare costs and that the way to go is improving technology. One solution they propose, getting patient electronic medical records accessible across all healthcare providers and insurance companies. Coming up, wrongful death lawsuits, people with mental disabilities signing Do Not Resuscitate orders without their family's knowledge.
And I said, you don't understand, she's not capable of signing a DNR.
It wasn't until later that the rest of the story came out.
That story after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. Medical facilities accused of playing God. It involves DNRs, or Do Not Resuscitate orders, placed on people with mental disabilities unknown to their families. Andy Parati explains why some families believe their loved ones died too soon and how it could happen to anyone.
It's all still too hard, you know?
Chuck Milne hits the road to visit someone he hasn't seen in years, but thinks about every day.
She was very gregarious, very outgoing, and loved people and loved attention.
He's talking about his big sister, Leona, an avid baseball fan.
She was a tremendous Braves fan. Had all kinds of Braves memorabilia.
Instead of planning their next game together, this is what their visits look like today.
How did you find out that she passed away?
I walked in and found her dead.
It all happened here at Roselane Health and Rehabilitation Center in Marietta, Georgia in April 2018. The 73-year-old was admitted to help her walk again following foot surgery, a temporary stay. But within days, nurses noticed something wrong.
They called and said she was having a little trouble breathing.
Chuck says he begged the nurses to call an ambulance, the hospital less than a mile away, but they wouldn't do it. That's because Leona had signed this, a DNR, or Do Not Resuscitate order, which prohibits medical staff from performing life-saving measures like CPR if a person's heart stops.
And I said, you don't understand, she's not capable of signing a DNR.
Why wasn't she capable? Leona grew up with a mental disability her entire life, the cognitive ability of a 9 or 10-year-old as an adult.
Mike Prieto represents Leona's family in a pending wrongful death lawsuit against Dr. Sarah Sambanham, the facility's former medical director and the physician ultimately responsible for Leona's care.
When we first looked at the case, we really just looked at it on whether or not Ms. Milne had mental capacity to execute a DNR. It wasn't until later that the rest of the story came out.
This is a DNR form for Ms. Milne.
The rest of the story revealed itself during this 2021 deposition of a social worker who worked at Roselane. According to Georgia law, before a DNR order is placed on someone mentally disabled, 2 doctors must evaluate the patient and sign the order. It must then go before an ethics committee for final determination. Similar protocols other states also require. The social worker said none of that happened at Roselane. In Leona's case, her DNR was photocopied with 2 doctors' signatures already on it before the form was ever given to Leona. One of the doctors resigned before Leona was ever admitted.
Were they original signatures or were they photocopied versions of signatures?
We had copies of those.
It wasn't the only time it allegedly happened. These are 194 DNR orders, part of the lawsuit, that were allegedly photocopied with doctor signatures on them before patients were ever evaluated. Through her attorney, Dr. Sambanham declined to be interviewed, but denies any wrongdoing in court filings. According to this deposition of the doctor taken in August, when asked about the DNRs, she said they look photocopied. She also claimed she had no idea the practice was happening in her 4 years as the facility's medical director, saying it had never come up. According to records from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, at least 4,800 long-term care facilities across the country since 2019 have violated patient advance directives, which includes DNRs. It's unclear how many of those violations involve DNRs improperly ordered without patient or legal guardian's consent.
This has to stop. They can't be doing this to other people. You're dealing with people's lives and family.
The lawsuit against the doctor who cared for Leona is still pending in Georgia. Her family settled a lawsuit against the facility for an undisclosed amount of money. Georgia's Department of Community Health has cited the facility 34 times since 2017. Some of those citations include supervision issues and failure to provide proper treatment plans. Up next, prescriptions filled incorrectly. Every year, the FDA counting roughly 100,000 medication error reports. And experts warn there could be more. One woman's alarming ordeal after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. Most of us trust our pharmacists. We assume we're getting what we've been prescribed. Not every pill has a name on it, so you can't always check. But when pharmacists get it wrong, the consequences could be serious. Rachel Polanski reports.
I'm frustrated, I'm upset, I'm in pain.
A plea for help from an Atlanta woman with nowhere to turn.
The pain is outrageous. It's extremely bad.
After a bad ankle sprain, Gradine Hector Faison was prescribed oxycodone. Without thinking twice, she picked up the medication from her local CVS and began taking it.
It didn't ease the pain up, but I was wide woke. I waited a couple hours, about 6 hours went by. I took another one, trying to ease the pain again, and it never eased up.
After taking the medication without any pain relief, Hector Faison called her daughter-in-law, who stopped by and paused after seeing the orange pills.
She looked it up. She said, how many of these you took? I said, I done took 4. She said, well, don't take no more. That's why she said, this is Adderall.
While oxycodone is an opioid, often categorized as a downer, Adderall is an amphetamine, often categorized as an upper, and both are Schedule II drugs. Hector Faison immediately called CVS, but she says she got the runaround from her local pharmacy and from the corporate office.
I just want what belongs to me. I want to ease my pain up. I want CVS to make it right. I want them to apologize for giving me the wrong medicine.
An Atlanta News First investigation uncovered what happened to Hector Faison is not uncommon. In fact, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration receives roughly 100,000 medication error reports every year. And get this, medication errors reported to the FDA jumped from 16,000 in 2010 to more than 100,000 in 2018. And these reports are voluntarily submitted, which means the numbers are likely higher.
As far as what's reported to the FDA, usually only accounts for about maybe 1 to 10% of what actually occurs.
Dr. Randall Tackett is a professor at University of Georgia's College of Pharmacy, and he attributes most medication mix-ups to pharmacists' workload.
Hey, Doc, how are you?
Just because you see a number of people behind the pharmacy counter does not mean they're all pharmacists. Most are technicians or support staff who cannot do everything a pharmacist can do.
Those pharmacists have to oversee all of those other people. That pharmacist has to answer questions from the patient. That pharmacist may have to be on the phone with the doctor. And that puts a lot of burden on the pharmacist.
In an effort to minimize mix-ups, some states have limited the number of prescriptions a pharmacist can fill to 150 per shift. While Georgia does not currently have limits, Tackett doesn't know if that's the magic answer.
In theory, possibly, but the reality of that is so hard to enforce. You don't want a pharmacist to okay, I've met my quota and I can't fill it.
His best advice for patients is simple: speak up.
If there's any differentiation between what you think you should be getting, question the pharmacist.
As for Gradine Hector Faison,
I'm on the road to recovery.
Her wait is finally over. Atlanta News First Investigates emailed CVS on a Friday. By Monday, Hector Faison received her correct medication and an apology.
I feel like if it wasn't for y'all, I wouldn't have gotten nothing resolved. Nothing at all.
Today, she says she's feeling better.
I'm just going day by day. At this point, I'm in the healing process.
Still, she does not want this to happen to anyone else.
It could have been life and death. consequences.
That's why she's urging pharmacists to double check every prescription they fill.
Do not give them the wrong medicine. Other things could happen worse than what it did to me. So please, be careful what you do.
CVS went on to say that they're looking into how this medication mix-up happened in the first place to ensure that it doesn't happen again, adding, prescription errors are a very rare occurrence, but if one does happen, we do everything we can to learn from it in order to continuously improve quality and patient safety. So how can you make sure this doesn't happen to you? 1, look at your medication before you leave the pharmacy. 2, if you have any questions, talk to your pharmacist. And 3, if possible, go to the same pharmacy. That way they have all of your medications on file and possible drug interactions.
Coming up, most Americans want to live debt-free, and there are some simple strategies that can make that happen. That story after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. Household debt reached $17 trillion this year. That's according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Many Americans turn to credit cards to help pay their bills. Carice Jackman shares some simple strategies to reduce your debt and raise your credit score.
It's something people hate feeling, like they're stuck in a financial hole, swiping their credit cards as a temporary fix. The status of credit card debt right now in the country, how bad is it?
Credit card debt is at an all-time high. Some studies have said we have $1 trillion in credit card debt. I mean, people are putting some of the most everyday expenses and things to keep them afloat on their credit cards.
Mary Liz Burns with the AARP says people in all income classes are turning to credit cards to help pay their bills.
1 in 5 people have over $5,000. And when you think about that and the average wages today, it is so much debt.
It's why the AARP came up with the debt-defying credit card strategies to help consumers juggle those credit card bills. One way to do so, Burns says, is by paying off your credit card with the highest interest rate first.
So for some people, those high interest rate cards really put them in a hole. So you start with the highest, then move to the second highest and the third, and you really get excited to see all those high interest rate cards go down. So a second approach may be the snowball method. And with snowballs, you start with the smallest balance, and then you go to the next smallest balance. It's easier to pay them off one at a time. You get these 0 statements back and you feel great about it. But if you've got some of those really high interest ones that you're kind of ignoring, you might not be doing yourself a favor. The next one is the pain point. Some people are losing sleep over credit card debt. They're stressed about it. There might be one you actually maxed out and you owe $10,000 on it. You don't know where to start. Start with that one that's causing so much pain and so much stress for you. You'll feel a lot better and free up a lot more money to pay off some of those other ones.
Burns says each strategy is different depending on your situation, so pick which one works best for your wallet. Bottom line, get that credit card debt down and pay a little bit more than the minimum. It may seem like there's no end in sight, but Burns says creating a strategy and sticking to it is a sure way of helping you climb out of your debt.
Thanks, Carice. If you're looking for more investigative reporting on demand, download our streaming apps on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. And that's it for us. Thanks for joining us here on Investigate TV. Hope to see you next week.